Thank you, Deanna, so much for the generous introduction. Can everyone hear me? Just let me know if I need to talk louder. And thank you to everyone with the tree reading series for inviting me here. It's a real pleasure, and it's a great honor to be reading with all of the poets who were fabulous, and also an honor to be reading with Monty Reed, whom I greatly admire. So thanks for having me. And thank you everyone for being here. As Deanna said, my last collection is called Elseworlds, and these poems I just sort of wrote randomly over about 3 years, and I didn't have a theme in mind, but as I started looking at groupings, I noticed some of the usual suspects of poetry emerging in terms of themes. So love, death, regret, time, the Woody Allen themes, I guess you could say. So I'm just going to read a random selection from the collection. Does anyone here suffer from insomnia? Yeah, maybe? Okay, so maybe a few of you can relate to this one. It's called Are You Asleep? Are you asleep or just pretending? This is the hour where, little by little, my heart's pulled out of place, and I strain to hear what scratches at the window. Someone's calling my name. Not you lying beside me, eyes closed, calculating taxes, or possibly dreaming of dancing, unicycling bears, while I'm so paralyzed by the maw of this mattress, it's as if I'm being swallowed alive. No. The voice summoning me is hoarser than yours or mine. I've been knocking for a long time, it says. Open the door. The next poem I was going to read was White Dress, but you read half of it, so maybe I'll skip that one. I'll have to think of what to no, that's fine, Deanna. I'll have to think of what to replace it with as I read the other few. So we will skip to, well, it's almost spring, so I'm going to read you a poem about spring and death. This one's called Memory, Begonia, Frog. We walk quickly to forget, and slowly to remember, says Kundera. Replace walk with any verb. The principle's the same. Take my begonias. They burst open so fast the other day that they were goners by nightfall. Though I was told that in filtered shade, these flowers would last all summer, with a show of peach and pink, the begonias said, "Watch this. Goodbye." Then there's frogs. Drop a frog in hot water, it'll jump out. But put it in water at room temperature, slowly turning up the heat, and the frog gets used to it, dying gradually. For lack of better words, what it boils down to is that perennial dilemma of loss. Those who flourish and die unexpectedly, and those who abandon us, degree by degree. Either way, we're left behind, leaping from one pot to another, or submerged in closets and albums and letters, taking what oxygen we can from pressed gardens, walking, running, crawling, eventually perceiving it as normal. I love cloud watching, and I'm a member of the Cloud Appreciation Society, so that's what inspired this poem. Excuse me. It's called The Other Cloud. Sure, 9 is big and fluffy and cushy, sustaining bliss and desire. But what about clouds 1 through 8 and 10? How come nobody praises the wispiness of 1, the incandescent practical cloud, warning us bleak weather's coming, or 2 for that matter, covering the sky with a radiant veil to make rings around the sun and moon? 9 can't do that. There's no point bothering with the cirrocumulus's mackerel crusts, or the unjustly slandered rain-bearing nimbostratus, or the plain old cumulus in every shade of gray. A new cloud's rolling across suburbia, nameless and numberless, on its way to becoming the first addition to the cloud atlas in a half-century. Meteorologists don't understand why these fantastical shapes dissipate without fabricating a storm, but they've assigned it a temporary title, so that's good. Ungulus asperatus cloud 11, translating roughly into agitated surge, lit from within, and surreal enough to be a computer-generated screen grab of horses galloping through unstable air, saddled to wipe out the atmosphere with an oily rainbow mane. Look up. It's forming as we speak. Next poem I'm going to read is called Air Hunger. Lately, I'm off kilter. Blue clouds in a white sky, so to speak. Or a cab driver with a horrible sense of direction. No GPS, no guide, no two-way radio. Winding through cities dense with honeymooners and iron monuments. Speeding through parks littered with dry leaves. Blinded by the too muchness of the sun. Not knowing how I got here. To boot, my appetite's fallen away. I'm not hungry, but unhungry, the state being similar to that of resting with unrest. The exquisiteness of devouring 4 decadent meals a day, feeling unhungry, of sleeping 16 hours on a luxurious pillow top, tolerating acute unrest. Tea doesn't taste the same or go down easily, but not for a second would I leave this hot mug on my oak dresser. Other than not eating or breathing, everything's under control, the freezer full of baking. A yogi tells me my serenity is in my own glands. My own glands. His monastery of relaxation and his obese joy baffle me. To please him, I stuff my mouth with mantras. Something has a grip on my ribs, and it's not letting go. Regardless, the stars come out night after night. It's nothing new. All my questions are unanswered, and they shine. I used to spend a lot of, when I used to smoke, I used to spend a lot of time out in the backyard on the porch at night watching the skunks and raccoons and bats and all the creatures. And I don't smoke anymore, so I don't sit outside as much, but I wrote this poem on one of those nights. It's called Moon Glow. Something transpired between the moon and me tonight. Like an addict, she was surrounded by the usual paraphernalia. Web of branches, glowing halo, lone rose climbing the trellis of my neglected garden. I stared for 10 seconds, maybe less. There was no howling, no drama. Yet I couldn't shake this déjà vu feeling of me as an intruder in my own yard, walking in on a tranquil video game about the souls of plants and twilight foragers. Soon, the divorcee down the street was calling her cat in. "Charles, Charlie, Charles," while Charlie Parker was with me, considering my enclosure of uncut grass and the overloaded compost mound containing enough dirt for an arboretum. The moon is a poor reflector, mirroring no more light from the sun than a lump of coal. We watched her steal color from everything she touched. She turned my rose gray and cast a blue shadow over the house. She could have at least given me a useful bit of advice, like, "Don't go on that trip. Bad things happen at sea," or "Clean up all this junk." But nothing. "I am not a gardener," I told her. And I got the sense she'd rather be looking down at an open-air nightclub rave, swimmers at a pool party, or lovers in Central Park. And speaking of love, the last poem I'll read this evening is a love poem, and it's called An Evening with Leonard Cohen. An Evening with Leonard Cohen. I've witnessed something magical. I can't even joke about how I knew you were singing just for me in that packed auditorium. Can't write a funny, "I adore you, Leonard" poem because I'm sick with grief that it's over. This bright hole and oh, oh, oh must be how Monet felt, painting his blood-red sunset. There are affairs we don't recover from. The old lilac by the crooked fence there, see it? That's your voice. Not the flower, but the heartwood's purple grain. I don't know what to do with myself, Leonard. I'm wandering around like a corpse and it's raining inside the house. When that spotlight illuminated your figure in a dark suit and fedora, elevating you from the Persian rug so that you hovered above the audience, I expected you to vanish then and there. Instead, you skipped on and off the stage, delivering the secret of life's anguish. Do-dum-dum, da-do-dum-dum. Everyone who could went home and made love last night. As for me, you wished me happiness in solitude, kneeling on one knee as though proposing. Thank you very much.